Yeah?
Yeah.
The Metro Redux.
Yep.
Cool. I played this on PC a little while ago now. I was asked to do a review for Games TM. I'm sure it's in their latest issue. A resprayed, remade, reduxed, whatever you want to call it, versions of both Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light. As I said, I played on PC. As far as I was aware, the version of Metro Last Light in the Redux was the same as the one that I'd already played to completion on PC. I couldn't really tell any difference. So I mainly focused, for the purpose of my review, as I'd already played that game, on 2033. And good God, I mean, they've turned what was already a cool but very sketchy game back when I played it on 360 into quite something in the new version. It looks amazing. It maintains that incredible atmosphere. They've sort of completely changed the gameplay systems even. They've incorporated like the stealth from Metro Last Light and the currency and things like that, and it almost feels like a completely new game, just that you happen to be walking through the settings of what it was before, but it's so much more accomplished than it used to be. And if you've never played the Metro games, and fair enough if you played a bit of Metro 2033 on 360 and it was a bit too sketchy, a bit too ropey for you, that's kind of how I felt. And you might not have played Last Light or whatever, but these are very, very, very special story-driven first-person shooters. That the closest comparison I can make is the Half-Life games.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are. They're clearly influenced by them, but they're much darker and way more intense. They feel very Russian, or Ukrainian, but they definitely have that Eastern feel, that bleakness and that hard edge that you can kind of lazily identify with those parts of the world, perhaps. But, it is what it is. And they're just brilliantly paced. It was kind of blend of this intense claustrophobic atmosphere and genuine sense of dread and unpleasantness, and then these amazing areas where you go out onto the surface of this post-apocalyptic, completely inhospitable and uninhabitable Russia. And those scenes in both Last Light and 2033, where you're gasping for air through this gas mask and having to wipe the stuff off it, and everything out there is just the worst thing you've ever possibly seen. They're really, really affecting. And this game is at a budget release. You get two shooters, one of which is only about a year old and is excellent, and then another one which has been the work that they've done to turn this into a completely modern shooter is amazing. I think the whole package is amazing, and I kind of wish I'd played it on console, in fact, because everything would have felt new then. I don't know why that makes much of a difference, but that engine seems to... my PC isn't massively friendly with that engine. It can run it fine, but it doesn't run it quite as well as it could do. But I'm pretty sure if I played it on PS4, I'd enjoy it even more. But it's like 30 quid or something? It's a ridiculous package.
Yeah. It really is. I mean, I played on Xbox One, and the presentation's terrific. The only bad aspects of it as a port, I mean, 2033 is a little bit sketchier than the Last Light port, but it's only really... I mean, there's non-player characters. It's almost as if the upgrade process somehow knocked them out of whack. Because they occasionally get stuck on scenery or just repeat lines of dialogue over and over again. There was two instances where I killed an enemy only for it to suddenly default to being alive and unaware, just standing there in the middle of a gunfight, alive, like no threat. And it's
I didn't have any of that, to be honest.
Okay, I mean, it might be exclusive to Xbox One, I don't know, but it was definitely jarring, but it doesn't happen very often at all. So I'm loath to mention it just because they're very tiny little moments, just sort of minor imperfections more than anything else. Slightly more of a problem is there's pronounced audio clipping when the game shifts from gameplay to cutscene, and the loading times between levels are surprisingly lengthy. But yesterday, and I haven't played it since yesterday, there was a 4 gig patch on Xbox One, so I haven't heard anything about what that involves, but I'm hoping that some of those minor issues are fixed by that. But yeah, I played both games as well. I played 2033 first, and I forgot how much I loved it when it came out. I honestly did. It's a story it's told very carefully, but there are great action set pieces in it, better than most shooters this side of Half-Life, like you say. It also requires a lot more patience because it's very slow, and it wants to tell you a story about as much as it wants to be a compelling shooter. Both of the games are very stark, right down to the fact that there's no HUD. But the first one's just slower. It's more involving, but it's slightly less conventional and maybe more difficult for casual players to get into, I suppose. I do, however, think that Last Light is the better game. Just because in 2033 there are a few too many sort of precision jumping bits, and a couple of the siege set pieces go on for way too long. And there's moments where you're walking around the surface and then you just suddenly... You're getting munched silently from behind, and They're in Metro 2033. There are also some scripted deaths where you watch yourself die over like the best part of a full minute before you realise that you have to go and do something else. So it's old school in that way. Also, I don't know if this is the case on PC, but you can't move between the games without quitting and reloading the disc on Xbox One, which is really daft. If you're playing Metro Last Night and you want to go and play Metro 2033, you have to reboot the disc.
Yeah, same situation. I got them as Steam codes from the publisher, and they were two completely separate games. So yeah, I had to do the same thing.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's just slightly daft, really. But I mean, any complaints I have about the package really are kind of trifling. I enjoyed going back to both of these games a great deal, and they are very good looking on Xbox One, and the lighting in particular is often jaw-dropping, and because these are stealth games, or they're meant to be played as stealth games if you're a purist, the shadows are very sharply defined, which really it adds to the experience no end when you're sort of skulking around in the dark. And I do like the fact that they have preserved 2033 really well, just because by default what they've done essentially is they've inserted the slickness of Last Light, in particular those genius twin radial inventory menus. They've put them into 2033 amongst other things, but if you want to play it as it was originally intended, the original game, you can if you play via survival mode. You can play Last Light in survival mode too, but it's a little bit jarring because that's really an action game at heart. 2033 works well as a shooter, very well, but Last Light doesn't work too well just as a stealth game. The transition doesn't work the other way around. I mean, these are very grim games. There's not a laugh or an upbeat moment in either of them, but they're not depressing because that world is designed so well, as cliched as some of it is, because it is another post-apocalyptic wasteland after all, but the little details just sell it so well, like those lousy little string and tin can traps that you see occasionally in the occupied metro stations, or those that when you see a metro entrance and you just see that once upon a time they were unsuccessfully barricaded with what looked like chairs from like school chairs, or the nauseating sound of that Geiger counter noise when you're outside. Get me out! But it all comes together to create a really compelling world, and they're both great shooters, if in slightly different ways if you play them as they're meant to be played. I loved playing both of them. It's a shame that this package is arriving so close to the launch of the year's biggest games. But I hope it sells well because it really deserves to. They're both terrific, really.
Yeah, pick it up if you're hungry for some if you're hungry for a shooter or a pair of shooters. But yeah, I mean, what a deal!